Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha TV. You're watching Discussion Today with your host, Kriti Mishra. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday spoke to US President-elect Joe Biden and congratulated him on winning the presidential elections. The two leaders also discussed the coronavirus crisis, climate change and cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. The Prime Minister also wished Indian origin US Vice President-elect Kamala Harris on her election to country's second highest office. This was the first conversation between Prime Minister Modi and US President-elect Joe Biden since his victory in the US polls. And to get a perspective on Indo-US partnership, I'm joined by Ashok Sajanhar, former ambassador, and Professor Ram Upendra Das, Head Center for Regional Trade. Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television, both of you. Ambassador Ashok, let me come to you first. Now, Joe Biden will be the third president to deal with Prime Minister Modi. Over the recent years, we've seen that the relationships have further fortified. What would his presidency mean for India?
As you said, Kriti, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your program. But as you said yourself, there's the third president that Prime Minister Modi will be dealing with. But of course, there's not the first time that he is meeting Mr. Biden, number one, because you would recall that he was the vice president for 8 years. He was the president of the Senate when Prime Minister Modi had gone to the United States in 2016. And when he was addressing the joint session of the US Congress, Joe Biden was the one who was presiding over it. Before that, also, Joe Biden had come here in the past when Prime Minister Modi had gone there in 2014. His first visit to Washington, D.C. after being elected in September 2014, it was Joe Biden who had hosted a lunch for him at the State Department in which Barack Obama had also dropped in. So the point I'm making is that Joe Biden and Prime Minister Modi are very well known to each other. Joe Biden has been at the forefront of taking the relations between India and the United States to the next level. He was a very big votary and supporter of the India-US nuclear deal. He has been a very big supporter of an expanding India-US defense partnership. In addition to that, if we see over the last 20 years, ever since the visit of Bill Clinton to India in March 2000, over the last 20 years, irrespective of who has been in power in the White House, whether it has been a Republican or a Democrat. You would recall Bill Clinton was a Democrat in 2000. From 2001 to 2009, we had George W. Bush, who was a Republican. After that, for 8 years, Barack Obama, and then 4 years with Donald Trump. So irrespective of which party has been in the White House, relations between India and the United States have continued to grow. And I do not have the slightest doubt that that is going to happen even now. There is a bipartisan consensus in the United States to have good relations, strong relations. And even over the last 4 years, when Mr. Trump came to office, there were a number of questions, there were a number of doubts and anxieties as to how would his tenure be, because Mr. Trump was unknown at that time in 2017 to the political world. He had never been a senator or a governor or a congressman. But you see how our relations have really grown even under Mr. Trump. There have been some points of divergence, but that, of course, you can expect in any strong relationship. But to come back to the current Vice President-elect, to President-elect and Vice President-elect, I am confident that our relations will continue to grow. Now it is a comprehensive global strategic partnership between the two countries, and whether it is in political, economic, strategic, military, cultural, people-to-people, Indian diaspora, I think our relations are in for a very rapid expansion and rise. Kriti.
Well, absolutely, Ambassador. You're making a very important point there that there is bipartisan consensus in the US to have strong relations with India. Professor Das, as Ambassador was pointed out, that this is not the first time that India will be dealing with President-elect Joe Biden. He was there as Vice President in the Obama administration as well. Now, whenever there's new administration in the Washington, D.C., There are fresh priorities. There are new areas of focus as far as foreign policy is concerned. What should New Delhi expect now?
Well, it is not easy to predict, especially given the uncertain times that we are living in. Having said that, I feel that the US policy with respect to many nations in the world, as well as international institutions that are global and multilateral in nature, which include institutions and partnerships with countries with an economic content, would be definitely very high on the agenda of the new administration. Second is that the usual dichotomies that this party favors these elements and another party focuses on some other dimensions, that kind of distinction in the new context is expected to get blurred, because now the US economy, as well as polity and the society on one hand, as well as the global geostrategic landscape, the way it is going to unfold, especially in the post-COVID-19 era, would necessitate that positions of any big power like US is issue-based, merit-based, and not so much ideological as it has been in the past. So therefore, I think there are two dimensions of my understanding where I feel that the economic content of foreign policy, as well as better partnerships across the regions of the world, and contribution to better functioning of international multilateral institutions, and addressing these economic contents also, which are on their merit and issue-based, would be perhaps unfolding as we see a world which is really uncertain at the moment.
So, of course, we're talking about the economic implications. Ambassador, a crucial area of interest for India would be global trade negotiations. Now, tell us, what would his presidency mean for the Indian economy?
Okay, thank you, Kriti. I think it's a very important question. But before I respond to this question, let me also say that the first priority of the Biden presidency, once he takes over on the 20th of January, is basically going to be domestic. I think let us be clear about that, because the country has been suffering from COVID-19. Now we see that there are more than 100,000 infected patients every day. And even in terms of fatalities, it is the United States, notwithstanding the fact that it is the strongest, most developed, most prosperous country in the world, it has been having such a large number of fatalities. So COVID-19 is going to be a very important element. Domestic economy is going to be a very important element, because we've seen that in the first quarter, the economy lost about, in the second quarter, the economy lost about more than 30% of its GDP. Of course, in the third quarter, there has been a V-shaped sort of a recovery when the GDP has grown again by 30%, but still there is a lot of way to make up. And the third is the race relations. And the fourth is the climate change. Now, when the Prime Minister spoke with President-elect Joe Biden, the three issues that were identified, one was COVID-19, in which both the countries have to work together. The other was Indo-Pacific. That also during the term of President Trump, we have been working together. And the third was climate change. So that is going to be a new one. Now, to come to your question about, in terms of India's economy. Now, we have seen that Mr. Trump, of course, our economy, bilateral trade relations have been growing. United States is our largest trading partner in goods and services. It's about $150 to $160 billion of bilateral trade, and that has been growing at about 10% every year. Now, the target that had been set for 2025, actually, when Joe Biden was the vice president and Barack Obama was the president, was $500 billion by 2025. So I think the effort would be, and the ambition would be to reach to that level. Now, during Mr. Trump's time, we have seen his focus. It was a very, very transactional sort of a relationship, although today, our trade surplus with the United States is barely in the range of $18 billion or $20 billion. That is minuscule as compared to the trade surplus that some of the other countries have. For instance, China has more than $400 billion trade surplus with the United States. But the sort of individual, transactional individual that Mr. Trump was, he made this trade surplus of India as a very defining moment in determining the bilateral ties between the two countries. You would recall that he was always speaking about Harley-Davidson as to how the duties on Harley-Davidson should come down. There were a number of issues in the area of dairy products, in the area of medical equipment, in the area of data privacy. So there have been these issues during the tenure of Mr. Trump. But still, you would recall that last year when the Howdy Modi event took place in Houston, at that time it was thought that we might be able to get a mini trade deal. And maybe this trade deal could have been signed when the two leaders met in New York last September, 25th September. That did not happen. Then when Mr. Trump came to India in February and we had the Namaste Trump event in Gujarat, then it was thought that a mini trade deal would come up. Even that time, it did not come up because I think India has been negotiating hard to protect its own interest, to protect its own, both have greater access to the US market and ensure that our farmers and our vulnerable sections are not exposed to competition from the United States. But I think the latest word that has been coming out, our Commerce Industry Minister had said very recently that we might be able to go for a mini trade deal before even the elections. Now, before the elections, it has not happened. I'm very hopeful, number one, that we should be able to get a mini trade deal there. It will be extremely important for India because we know that on this Sunday, the RCEP agreement was signed in Vietnam under the presidency of Vietnam. India decided last year in Bangkok to withdraw from RCEP. So this trade deal with its largest trading partner, the United States, would be very important for India. And the second part is that I don't think that trade, like Mr. Trump had made, would be the sole determinant of bilateral relations between the two countries. Kriti.
Absolutely, Ambassador. Professor Das, as Ambassador was pointing out, that it is expected that the economic linkages would be more liberal rather than quoting crude protectionism. He's talking about the mini trade deal that has been making in for years now. Do you finally see that it will see the light of the day?
I have every reason to be optimistic because one major change that is going to happen is in terms of lessening of anti-trade sentiment worldwide. And US being one of the biggest consumers of products from outside the USA, this is going to be very crucial for other countries in the world as well, including India. And US market has been, because of its sheer purchasing power and the variety of demand, the kind of quality that they expect, has a very important impact on any domestic economy. So we cannot export to US if we don't produce products which is of a quality acceptable to the US consumers on one hand, and it is price competitive vis-a-vis other competitors of India in the same US market. So therefore, the trade relations which actually should have gone to the next level, despite the fact that our trade has been rising, as Ambassador Sajjanhar just mentioned, we also expect that some of the narrow perspective with respect to anti-trade sentiment that was there, which was visible with respect to global negotiations, global trade regimes, as well as vis-a-vis different countries, resulting in trade wars and so on. We have to be optimistic in the sense that already in January, US and China had signed a phase one deal. And one can easily see how that can further fructify into phase two and so on. And therefore, going by that logic, I also am very optimistic why India and US cannot have a full-fledged trade agreement, even if that means beginning with a mini trade deal where some of the very crucial products of export interests of India on one hand and export interest products of US on the other are actually combined, and that manifests itself in a broader rules that will govern India-US trade on a preferential.
Absolutely, Professor. You're making a very important point there, and we expect that there would be renewed trade ties with the US administration now. But shifting focus to another important aspect, Ambassador. What would Biden's presidency mean for China, for Pakistan, and its impact on India?
Again, very important questions that you have posed, Kriti, here. As far as China is concerned, I think there might be a reduction in rhetoric. There might be less of confrontational tweets emanating out of the White House or any member of the Biden administration. But I think he will be equally tough, and there will be a pushback against China. I think that is very clear. Even the first discussion between the two leaders, between Prime Minister Modi and Joe Biden, was on Indo-Pacific. And Indo-Pacific basically means, in the new avatar Indo-Pacific, when it came into being in November of 2017, on the sidelines of the East Asia Summit and also the Quad. So over the last 3 years, these two concepts, these two initiatives have really traveled quite far. And basically, it is a pushback against China. So I think Joe Biden has also realized that China is a systemic rival. You see, I don't think there is going to be a return to the Obama type of engagement with China, because at that time there was a feeling, there was a hope, there was an expectation, all wrong expectations which were belied, that as China became more prosperous, as China became more rich, it would become more liberal, it would become more democratic. Now that hope has been sort of, consigned to the dustbin. And now China, the United States realizes that China is a systemic rival as far as it is concerned. So it has to push back. The positive aspect here, Kriti, is going to be that it's not that the United States will be acting alone. Mr. Trump had destroyed all his alliances. You look at NATO, you look at the partnership with Europe, you look at the partnership with Japan, Australia, South Korea. He had really shred these alliances in tatters. Now, Mr. Biden, his first calls were to leaders in Europe. His second calls were to the alliance partners in East Asia and Australia. And then he has spoken to India. So I think he is building a coalition of countries, willing, capable, like-minded countries which can push against China. So I feel reasonably comfortable, reasonably confident that stylistically it might be different, but in substance, in content, the pushback against China will continue. As far as Pakistan is concerned, again, I think Mr. Trump was able to get some good successes, because you would recall his tweet of the 1st of January 2018, where he had said that we have given $33 billion to Pakistan to fight against terrorists, and these are the same terrorists that they are supporting. And they have taken the US leaders, the American leaders, to be fools and idiots. And this is not going to be happening again. And he had stopped the $3 billion coalition support fund to Pakistan. So Trump was able to pressurize Pakistan. Of course, he had to reach out to them when they wanted a deal on Afghanistan, because America wanted to withdraw its forces and troops from Afghanistan. So it was able to pressurize Pakistan without giving in terms of, incentivizing so to say, its cooperation with the United States.
Ambassador,
It
that
is
also
my
reminds
view,
me that a
Preeti.
policy paper that was released by Biden's campaign during the presidential elections that affirmed commitment to combating terrorism, and also a very important point that Biden will push for India's permanent membership in UN Security Council. Professor Das, will it finally shape up?
Well, this is an issue of geopolitics, and this has been there on anvil for a long time. But I would only reiterate what, as you mentioned, has already been mentioned by the campaign document itself, and also repeated mentioning by our own Prime Minister that multilateral institutions, including the UN, must reflect the realities of today, and not only today, but also of future. And when you want to reflect the reality of today and future, you just cannot ignore a country of the size and quality of India from the point of view of its economic might that is unfolding, from the point of view of its presence in the sphere of military, strategic, maritime domains, and therefore the conversation that hovers around Indo-Pacific, the initiative of Quad with Japan, Australia, US, and India, more countries joining the initiative is going to be something very, very important in times to come. And therefore, all this must manifest itself in terms of restructuring of the UN Security Council with India's permanent membership. There is no doubt about that. Nobody can deny that. We have to only wait when it happens.
Right, sir. Another important point there, and two important aspects that I'd like to touch upon before we end this show is, of course, climate change. Ambassador, how do you view the capability of this new administration to combat climate change?
You know, climate change is an issue of faith as far as Joe Biden is concerned and as far as the Democrats are concerned. And they have said it in so many words that as soon as Biden takes over the presidency, he is going to be joining the Paris Accord. And this, I think, is going to be welcome news as far as we are concerned, because in the past, we used to be apologetic, we used to be defensive about climate change. Not any longer. I think Prime Minister Modi, when he participated in the COP21 in Paris in 2015, I think the sort of initiatives that we put forward, whether it is the International Solar Alliance, whether it is our commitment to go into renewables earlier, we were to manufacture renewables of 20 gigawatts by 2020. Now it was increased to 62 gigawatts. By 2030, we are to produce 200 gigawatts of energy by renewables. So I think we are in a very happy and we are a very comfortable space as far as climate change is concerned. And there we would find an area where both India and the United States can work together. It is even in the first conversation, climate change is an issue that has been mentioned. Both the leaders discussed about that. This is, as I said, an article of faith for the Democrats. And for us also, although India is mentioned as the third largest polluter, but as compared to the United States and China, we are our global carbon footprint is very, very small. So I think this is definitely an area where we will be working together with the administration of Joe Biden. Kriti.
Right, sir. And Professor Das, lastly, what about immigration policy, the visas, and especially H-1B visa for skilled manforce?
Well, the recent pronouncements already made by the president-elect or vice president-elect or some other authorities within the US administration, the team is getting formed in any case, has very clearly mentioned that they would be very positively inclined to address the issue of H-1B visa and other categories of providing work permits to others. And that becomes very crucial for a country like India, not only for the IT sector. Of course, the IT and IT-enabled services is the major beneficiary of that. but there are many other sectors of export of services like medical, health, travel, or educational services, or accounting and auditing services, where the global landscape has yet to be harnessed by Indian skilled, the skilled youth that is available in terms of demographic dividend. And I think on one hand, where US is requiring those talents and skills, the visa policy, including H-1B visa, would be very crucial for the US as well as for India. And it is going to unfold in a win-win situation for both.
So we can easily infer that it is about 3 C's: combating coronavirus pandemic, combating climate change, and of course, very importantly, policy towards China. On that note, thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador Professor Das. It was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you.
So that's all we had for you in discussion today. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Rajya Sabha Television.